Hi, and welcome to the Bionic Man versus Bigfoot episode of the Total Recall Show.
Bigfoot's back, alright!
Or should I say the $6 Million Man versus Bigfoot. Back in the day, like sometimes TV shows would like change their name, you know, like for syndication or like, Andy Griffith's show becomes like Mayberry RFD or whatever. And so, like, as a kid, I always remember him being called the Bionic Man, but it's the $6 Million Man.
I would remember that too.
Yeah. So.
That's like some kind of Mandela effect as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tune. I like the Hulk when I watched like the Incredible Hulk Returns TV movie. My first $6 Million Man stuff was on the periphery. My cousins had like that on like lunch boxes and shit.
Matt, I'm seeing a pattern because it's like, this stuff's like before your time, but like you have these older cousins who kind of schooled you in like all the stuff you missed.
Yes. Yeah. They have
by being born when you were born.
Yes, they're that's exactly you called it. And my mom was into the kind of like she took them to see Star Wars.
Okay, nice.
So like there's a story they always tell where like my cousin Mark locked himself in the stall, and like my dad had to crawl under to get him out. He wouldn't come out of the bathroom stall
because he was like scared of the Wookiee or something.
They're like,
so your mom was like the cool aunt. Now
Aunt D, they called
your cousins. Like, did they tell you about how angry they were when you were born? Because like now, like she was out of rotation. Like she was not able to take them to like Empire Strikes Back or Return to the Jedi or whatever. Yeah, once you were born, like she was a lot less available.
Yeah, I have like a giant Sting, a poster from the Robert Redford movie, The Sting.
Nice.
That she would like get from the theater. Like she was like
she'd be like bugging the guy who runs the theater, like, okay, before you throw that in the trash, here's my phone number.
Yeah, before people were like doing that, like, which kind of like I'm into that stuff myself.
Yeah, sure.
So, but
you got a lot of cool display, and you've given me some cool displays.
Yeah.
Some like Pepsi, Star Wars displays.
Oh yeah, they even saved like I have the original Star Wars newspaper ad.
Nice. That's sweet. That's really nice. I love that kind of stuff.
It wasn't like its first. It was from like '78.
Yeah, well, because it kind of like never went away. It was like it just was just such a huge hit. It just kind of stayed in
around.
The theater. And then I think like in 1980 they had like a re-release, like an official re-release.
Wow.
Of Star Wars. And I think that's when I saw it, was for that re-release. But this isn't a Star Wars episode. This is a $6 Million Man episode.
So with the Hulk, remember the Incredible Hulk Returns movie? Yeah. There was a Bionic Man TV movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I think it was called like the Return of the Bionic Man, or it was like, it was like the Bionic Wedding, or something. Like there was one where he gets married to Jamie. The
You're
Bionic
right.
Woman.
That was there's in the '90s was the Bionic Wedding.
Okay.
There was another. That was the second movie. This one was '87 or '88.
Okay.
Same time as the Hulk thing. So I'm seeing like Bionic Man. I'm seeing the Hulk in these like TV movies, and I'm loving this shit, man.
Yeah, it's funny thinking of that stuff because those $6 Million Man TV movies, $6 Million Man felt like such ancient history. Like he was part of the distant, dim past. Because that's like before my time and stuff. But but meanwhile, it was probably like 7 years apart. I'm way more knowledgeable about the Fall Guy.
Love the Fall Guy too.
Like that was more like I saw that in real time, where like $6 Million Man would be like reruns, in the afternoon or something that I'd occasionally get to see.
I love Lee Majors.
Yeah.
What the Fall Guy taps into
majorly.
I majored.
And Farrah Fawcett. You majored in Lee Majors. And Farrah Fawcett majors.
Farrah Fawcett majors.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy tapped into my other obsession of like vehicles, like Knight Rider. Yeah. Like Uncle had this like black truck that looked kind of like it was like remind me of the Fall Guy, and I was like wonder where the button is to press to like do like the turbo boost.
Now this isn't a Fall Guy episode. This is a $6 Million Man. So hopefully this is going somewhere.
Yeah, Bigfoot is like pure obsession, and I remember seeing like somehow I saw the Bigfoot $6 Million Man episode. I'm like, this is great. Yeah. I love seeing Bigfoot in all his forms.
Yeah.
So like the Bigfoots from the $6 Million Man, there was like the two-parter episode, then there was like another episode.
Yeah, there were a couple. It had a number of sequels. Like there was that initial one, and it just like blew everybody's mind.
Oh yeah.
And And then sort of like lesser sequels. But yeah, when he fights Bigfoot, and it's Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant.
I think just in those that first two-parter. I think it's somebody else in the sequels. But man, Andre the Giant's so great. But that fight is amazing.
It's so good.
It's like you can't even believe this was on TV because it's like such high quality stuff, and like in the 70s. But it's like this extended fight. Bigfoot's throwing trees at the $6 million. He's like karate chopping them in half and roll.
He knocks the tree over.
Yeah, it's just so good, and
I know it's like kind of like just a cheesy camera trick, but the slow running stuff gets to me. Like when they're coming down the hill, I'm like, that pumps me up.
Yeah, like if you actually saw him like moving like in high speed, it would be no fun.
No.
But yeah, you get to sort of savor the.
Bigfoot looks in these because it's like the Bachman. They look like a member of BTO. Like I like it, just like
he's got huge beard, big like
bouffant hair,
big helmet hair for Hall of Fame. Bigfoot.
Well,
you know what it is? It's Andre the Giant's hair. I mean, Andre the Giant has like some amazing hair.
So the bionic Bigfoot
helmet hair
Hall of Fame.
Sure, yeah, he's a front runner.
Front runner for the next recall. He's
great. You know, like kind of what made me initially want to revisit the $6 Million Man was. I mean, we've been like big fans of that like Quentin Tarantino podcast.
Yes.
But like he was talking about it kind of in the context of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's like when your show's no longer on the air and now you're just like the guest star on other shows and you're kind of the guest villain, and the hero of the show gets to beat you up. And he said, you know, it's like it's William Shatner, but you kind of feel like you're watching Captain Kirk beat up. And the example he gave was the episode of The $6 Million Man where William Shatner shows up, and he's an astronaut also, and he comes back to Earth with powers that he got from like radiation in space, and so he's got to fight the $6 Million Man, and the $6 Million Man kicks his ass, and it was like, man, why is Captain Kirk getting his ass kicked by the $6 Million Man? So I'm like, I have to see this episode. Check it out. It's really great. It's really wonderful. And when William Shatner's in space, it's at the beginning, and it's like the rock it man, like he's like up there, and like he's not getting enough oxygen or the radiation or something, so he's like kind of getting giddy and high and like laughing, and it's mostly like stock footage of like an astronaut spinning around in space, but it's like. And it goes on way too long, and he's like but it's pretty great.
I'm gonna watch that one.
When he comes back to Earth, he like has powers. Now, his powers are like psychic, and it's kind of like scanners or something. Like I mean, and he can like communicate with all kinds of stuff. He can communicate with like dolphins and things like that. But he can also kind of like get inside your head and like make you go insane or like whatever, like make your head explode or whatever. So it's kind of cool. But I'm watching it. And it's an old TV show, so like it's slow burn. Every commercial, you got to reset the drama and stuff like that. A lot of redundancy and stuff. Still, a lot of fun, but I'm waiting for this fight where they square off, and I'm picturing like I've seen the Bigfoot fight with $6 million. I'm picturing something along those lines. I'm waiting to see Captain Kirk get his ass handed to him by the Bionic Man. They end up like. On top of, I don't know, like a billboard or something. Like they're up real high, or like a water tower. They're up real high. And then Shatner's just kind of like, oh, help me. And he's like, okay, I'll help. Lee Major's like, okay, I'll help. So there's no fight. No fight at all. Yeah, they all sizzle no steak. Yeah, it just very disappointing.
Letdown.
What a letdown. I think it was probably just like Tarantino's memory as a kid. Like he kind of remembered it wrong. He kind of like maybe he combined some $6 Million Man episodes, but $6 Million Man never gives Captain Kirk a beatdown. If anything, Captain Kirk kind of gets the better of him for most of the episode, and then at the end they kind of like make friends,
You know what? That was probably, you're right. He was just like so he's like, oh god, Captain Kirk's getting beat up. He like
or maybe
false
he
memory
anticipated that Captain Kirk was going to get beaten up, and so it kind of became the memory because he never gets beaten up by the $6 Million Man, unfortunately.
I always was obsessed too with like what his injuries were.
Yeah.
So like I knew he had the 2 legs.
Yeah.
He has the eye situation.
Right.
I like how like what a great gimmick where you can keep adding different like powers and stuff. He said like only his right arm was bionic, but like when they're like Steve Austin, your right hand is bionic, and he like looks at the camera and goes like that for some reason.
I mean, it's pretty early on. Like, it's in the pilot where, like a nurse, he gets it on with a nurse, like pretty early on.
They're like, you have a bionic right hand. And he spikes the camera, and his eyebrows go up and down.
Yeah, he does like a Groucho thing. Now, your cousins, did they have the toys?
Oh yeah, they had. I mean, I would play with them, and I wish I still could have them, but Transformers,
Yeah,
G1, $6 Million Man, Evel Knievel stuff, like all the goods, like Evel Knievel motorcycle, like all the good shit.
Well, I mean, the Steve Austin $6 Million Man toy, the great thing is he's got a little hole in the back of his head, and you look through it, and you can see his like little scope through it, like that always. And it always blew my mind when I was a kid. I never had it. Again, it was like the older kids in the neighborhood who had all this stuff. And this, the kid across the street, he had Steve Austin. You could look in the back of his head.
That's awesome.
And Boba Fett, he had Boba Fett also, and he had the Boba Fett had like a similar thing too, where you could look in the back
through.
of his and see his like Boba scope or whatever.
That's so cool. Like I remember there being like $6 Million Man stuff. They had like the Star Wars Darth Vader case with everything in it, all the figures, like.
This guy also had the bionic Bigfoot toy where like you could like take a piece off his chest and you'd see like a computer or whatever.
That's another thing. Like I love the Bigfoot character so much. I kind of like blocked out the Bigfoot was bionic.
Right, you want him to be pure Bigfoot. I didn't really like. I don't know that I've ever even seen the episode. It's just kind of like in my head, just maybe from like up until recently. It's just in my head because of the toy, and maybe I saw commercials or saw bits of it.
Bionic.
But yeah, I just like seeing the story now. It's like I had it built up in my head. Like again, great fight. Part 1 is perfection, and then part 2 is where you get all the explanations, and it gets kind of boring. Like it's not as good. It's a very steep drop from
off.
Like part 1 to part 2.
The aliens, like Bigfoot, protects them.
Yeah, and like. The aliens like created him or something and he's like a robot. They brought him to Earth, but it is kind of like at a point it's like who cares? We got this Bigfoot. Yeah,
and then they in the first 2 episodes they're like trying to prevent like an earthquake, and then in the second one, Bigfoot I think somehow there's something about him becoming like an Earthling, like his transformation. From like
where they kind of give him like a haircut.
They give him a haircut
and a suit, and
he becomes a flat iron.
he becomes like the intern at NASA.
At NASA, they're like, meet our newest. Then he meet our newest intern, Bigfoot, and he's like, there's a part
Mr.
where
Foot.
Mr. Foot. There's a lot of plaster casts in all these episodes too. I love seeing a plaster cast, but like there's a part where the entrance to like either like the alien's den or like Bigfoot's cave looks like the Noah's Ark.
It's like the Noah's Ark at Kennywood. Yeah, it's this tunnel where like the thing spins. And you're like,
And Bigfoot carries Steve Austin out at the end. Then he's like, and gives him a big
Again, that's all part 1, and it's like, man, part 1 is so great. Part 2 you can almost skip. You're better off not.
Give him a haircut. They flatten his. Yeah. They're like flattening his hair. So like the standalone one where he's like I love it. He's like, that's my old friend Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah. He's like, it gets a continuity.
The one lead in that she keeps. I don't know if she's like. Hadn't heard anybody say Sasquatch before, but she calls it Sawsquatch.
Sawsquatch. Yeah, I've heard Sawsquatch. See, I thought that was a Pittsburgh thing because I've heard Sawsquatch around here too.
We should have like a
sausage,
like
Sasquatch,
like Italian Sasquatch pizza sauce or Bigfoot branded.
Yeah. Oh, well, they did have the Pizza Hut Bigfoot pizza.
Bigfoot. Oh, I love that. That was great seeing Bigfoot get some shine. Yeah. Oh, it's like, you're not gonna believe this. I'm looking down. He's like, I see Bigfoot and it's sausage.
It's Sasquatch. This is it's like we're so fortunate to have lived through this era of all this like superhero stuff, but it's like this was it. Like this, in the 70s or whatever, you turn on your TV to ABC and it would be,
two Titans.
Seeing two Titans. Yeah, it's like Hulk versus the Thing or something.
And since Andre the Giant's a wrestler, he's moving like really, he's in the ring, so he has a great physicality.
Yeah, he's not stiff at all.
Yeah,
it really is like a great moment. And when I watch these old shows, like, when you watch like Star Trek or you watch the old Batman show, or you watch this, you're like, how did this show get canceled? Like, why did they ever stop making this? But then, if you like sort of scroll through and kind of see, like, they run that fucking thing into the ground. Like, it had to go away. And so then when he did come back for the TV movies, it was kind of like, oh, it's nice to have.
They picked to clean that carcass clean.
Yeah.
They're always up in the mountains, like doing like earthquake tests up in there, and she's like, that's Sasquatch. There he is. It was also great seeing vintage 70s camping gear too.
Yes, seeing like the 70s camping equipment and like 70s plaid shirts and stuff.
Love it.
Like it like all the camping equipment and stuff. It does remind me of like the Fisher Price. You ever see those Fisher Price camping like from the 70s kind of thing?
Yeah.
There's and they all got like thick sideburns and stuff.
Yeah, his look in the not the two-parter, the second one. He's got the plaid flannel open down to here. Mm-hmm. He's got a khaki
the brawny man.
The brawny man.
The brawny paper towel man.
Big
helmet
hair.
Yeah,
the sheepskin vest. Huge belt buckle. It's about like 8 inches wide.
With his name on that's my grandfather. Like all the stuff you're describing, my grandfather is like, it was like, the big belt buckle, the mutton chop sideburns.
Love it.
Puffed out hair, kind of like almost like Elvis or something, but like with silver hair. Silver hair Elvis.
Awesome.
But we can't end this episode without saying, I was watching that episode, that first Bigfoot episode, and there's all these shots from Bigfoot's point of view where you don't see him, and it is legitimately scary.
It's scaring the shit out of me, man.
It's like real horror movie kind of stuff. There's like, you're just missing like where it sort of gets, where the gore happens, but it's scary. Like there's some definite tension leading up to like when you actually see like the full Bigfoot.
I'm with you, Tom. When I was little, even watching it, and now, like I would be like, this Bigfoot, it's great, but I'd be like, it's like, haha, it's scaring me, or I'm like, I pretend I wasn't like. Also, the sound effects, the growls, it's like, I was like, that's scary.
Man, I can't imagine, like, could you imagine being like a little kid in the 70s watching this thing? Like, you never go to sleep again. You're just like having to leave your light on every night.
What? Also, it's like the combination of like fascination and terror too. With I think I mentioned it with the Bigfoot episode of on the previous Bigfoot episode. It was that Bigfoot movie. It was the Wonderful World of Disney, and it was like directed by like it might have been Danny Houston or John. One of the Houstons directed it, but it was the 2-hour movie with Candace Cameron. But she gets kidnapped by Bigfoot.
Man.
But at night, she's like in this like cave area. It's scary as hell, and Bigfoot, she's like shining a flashlight around, like wondering where she's at. She shines it right on Bigfoot's face.
Oh, forget about it.
And I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. But the costuming, it's like just a costume. And they've repurposed that. There's a movie called Radio Flyer. It's super sad and depressing. But it's these two kids are imagining a monster outside. And they pull the blind down and look up, and this monster is literally outside the door. It's the same fucking costume, Bigfoot costume from that Wonderful World of Disney thing, but with two like fangs.
Okay,
they just literally put just fangs on.
I was gonna say it's like kind of moth-eaten from being in storage for a little bit.
They busted out of storage,
like the Michael Myers mask compared to like the William Shatner.
Wonderful World of Disney like costume used in it. They're like, we need something that's the most terrifying thing we can imagine. They just repurposed it.
I just recently saw a picture of the William Shatner mask that they used for the Michael Myers mask, and so it is completely Shatner. Like when you see it, he's like flesh toned, looks like Shatner and stuff, and then you see like what they did. They took like the eye holes and cut them out, made them even bigger, and spray painted it white, and then took the hair and kind of like combed it up.
Bouffant.
But it like, because I was kind of like, when I'd heard about Michael Myers mask being a William Shatner mask, I'm like, that's one shitty William Shatner mask. That does not look a thing like William Shatner. But when you see the original, it's like, oh, okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if I like was huffing gas or something, but I don't know if Shatner gets like a residual or something.
Right. That William Shatner is not rich from Star Trek. He's rich from his like Halloween residual check.
He's like, they're using my face in the movie.
I am Michael Myers.
I'm glad we were able to bust out our Institute of Sasquatchology expertise for
That's
this.
right. Yeah. So yeah, you've been watching the $6 Million Man versus Bigfoot episode of the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
Please support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scioli.
You can follow the Total Recall Show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
What's that outside the window? You know, the Total Recall Studios where we film this, it's scary outside.
It is.
Like in the daylight, it's fine, but at night, it's like
it's,
Bigfoot might really be out there.
Oh my god.
Hamana.